This is such a 2003 movie that it opens on Kate Beckinsale's lower back tattoo. Like, this movie is a time capsule of the year in which we all thought that was a good idea. And she's an artist, and she's doing a painting. And then Matthew McConaughey comes in.
Whoa.
Famous people are in this movie, which is amazing. He's like, baby, I gotta go away. And she's like, but you always go away and you don't tell me where you're going. He's like, it's my family. And she says, but why can't I meet your family? Do you have some big secret about your family? He's like, don't you worry about that, baby. So then she tries to give him a job.
She tries? She fails?
She gets on her knees and she undoes his pants. And he's like, no time for that, baby. Matthew McConaughey's too cool for a job.
Do you think he's too stupid to understand what's happening?
Yeah, he's like, are you trying to steal my pants? He's like, Mama McConaughey warned me about pants thieves. I think, honestly, there's scenes in this movie where I'm like, we're wasting this guy on women. Like, there's scenes in this movie where I'm like, okay, there's a scene in this movie where Matthew McConaughey takes his shirt off and he's just in his underwear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this didn't make me gay, but I get why women want to fuck men now.
Sure.
Like, I just get it.
Right.
I'm not going to, but I understand. His secret is he shows up to a convention for little people.
Oh, no.
Because this is a movie about Matthew McConaughey being the only normal-sized person in a family of little people.
What?
He's like, hi, Mom, hi, Dad, and they're little people. And then earlier we see coming down the road a pair of their little people bikers, and they pull off on the side of the road to pee. The little people bikers are Peter Dinklage.
Oh, okay.
He's friends with the little person played by Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman is the twin brother of Matthew McConaughey. So they go to the side of the road to pee, and then a bus pulls up, and then Patricia Arquette gets off the bus. And this whole movie, and then Patricia Arquette, because it's 2003, she's really dressed like a slutty pirate. So she gets off. She's kind of like, the whole movie, she's manic pixie dream girl, but like on meth. And Peter Dinklage is like, I'm in love. And he's just like, get on my bike. And she's like, okay. So then they show up to the convention late. It's already over. And then Matthew McConaughey comes out and he's like, hey, we missed you at the convention. But you're my brother and I love you. And he's like, yeah, all right, cool. And then Gary Oldman and Peter Dinklage and Patricia Arquette, they check into a motel. And right when they check in, the guy behind the counter, he points to a sign. He's like, I'm sorry. And he points to a sign that says, no prostitutes. And she's like, I'm not a prostitute. It's 2003. And everyone looks like they smell bad. So he comes back from the convention. And Kate Beckinsale is in bed with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh.
And she's like, why don't you ever tell me about your family? And he's like, I don't tell. So then she's like, okay, well, guess what? Hotshot, I'm pregnant.
Oh, what?
And he's like, oh boy. Because he knows that what she doesn't know, which is that the kid has a good chance of being a dwarf.
Right.
Or a little person.
Yeah.
And then Gary Oldman goes to visit his like old girlfriend for some reason. And he's like, you got a guy staying here? And she's like, well, I slept with him twice, but we're just friends. And he's like, you're up to your old tricks, aren't you, Sally? And she's like, well, I'm letting him stay here because what else was I going to do? He got evicted from his apartment in the Gaza Strip.
Oh, shit.
So topical.
Oh, no.
This is topical for 2003.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and she's like, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, remove you from the land.
Oh, no.
And he's like, well, if you're going to force me off this land, I choose violence. The whole thing's a metaphor.
Yeah.
And then she hits him over the head with a boombox, which you could argue is a disproportionate response. I mean, this movie's bringing up a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Somehow this movie is interjecting little people into the Israel-Palestine conflict in a way that I don't understand.
Yeah, fuck.
I think maybe this movie is trying to tell us that the Middle East is two groups of people who are fighting over the same area. But if all those people were just smaller, they would all fit. It's not the land's too little, it's the people are too big. We need little Jews and little Palestinians. We just solved it. So then Gary Oldman goes to his brother's house, but his brother's not home. But Kate Beckinsale answers the door, and she's like, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm your husband's brother." And she's like, "Oh my God, he never told me about you. And you're a little person." So then they talk and they meet, and she gets it. She's like, "Oh, his brother's." He's like, "Oh, so your parents are like this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "He's always been ashamed of us. It makes sense he didn't tell you, you know." And she's like, "Okay, now I get it." So Matthew McConaughey is a firefighter. So Beckinsale comes storming in to where he's doing his firefighter stuff. This is a serious conversation where she needs to confront Matthew McConaughey about his lies and about how their child might have challenges in the future. And she's wearing like what I could only describe as an Ebenezer Scrooge sleeping cap with like lots of tassels coming at the end. It looks like a cartoon like wizard hat with like a big foofies on the side. And she's like, "I have something." It is like blue and white stripes.
Yeah.
This big hat.
Sleepy time.
And she's like, "I have a very serious thing to discuss with you. That's where I wore my wizard's hat." And you're like, was 2003 really this weird?
Yeah.
She's wearing slutty jammies and a wizard hat. And she's like, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" He's like, "I'm pregnant." He's like, "So that means that, you know, she's like, "Does that mean that the kid could also be a little person?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a good chance. And it could be a little person."
Yeah.
So then she's like, "How could you do this to me?" And then they kind of have that discussion. And she's like, "I still want to have the baby." Basically, she still wants to have the kid. And he increasingly seems to hate little people.
Okay.
But then they're like, "I guess we'll just have the kid," I think they agree to have the kid. And then there's a scene where the parents are going to meet each other. And of course, Kate Beckinsale just didn't tell her parents that her fiance's parents are little people.
Sure.
So they come in and they just look shocked, but then they get over it. So basically, the third act takes a turn.
Okay.
Where they have the baby, and they show a doctor walking down the hallway. And for some reason, the doctor is a little person, and so is everyone in the hospital. Like, are there special little people hospitals?
Are there?
So then the doctor's like, "This is your baby, and your baby's a little person, but you're going to love him just as much." And Kate Beckinsale's like, "Oh my God, we're so happy to be parents. You're happy too, right, honey?" And they cut to McConaughey, and he punches a wall and goes, "I fucking hate little people." Then they cut to... now they're back at their apartment, and she's holding the baby, and the baby's crying, and she's like, he's in a lot of pain because he's of his condition, you know. And he's like, "I thought having a kid would be a good idea, but I'm not really into it. So if you and the baby don't mind, I'm just going to all right my way out of here. I'm just going to skedoodle if that's cool with you guys." So Matthew McConaughey abandons the family. He's like, "Look, baby, time is a flat circle. So I'm going to get up on out of here." So Kate Beckinsale, with nowhere to turn, she goes to Oldman's cabin. And then, you know, Oldman, and then she falls asleep. Oldman's great with the baby. Oldman's holding the baby. But then McConaughey comes back. Well, he said, like, "You know, I put some thought into it, and I want to raise our child." And then Beckinsale's like, "I don't think so. How about you just get out of here for real?" And he's like, "All right." I guess, like, she's like, "I'm going to live in the cabin with Gary Oldman." But then Beckinsale is distraught. And he's like, "Come out here, I want to show you something." And he's like, "It's the stars." So they're looking at the stars, and Beckinsale is looking at Oldman. Little Gary Oldman.
Little Gare.
Wait.
Little Gare.
Little Gare. And she says, "If you want to kiss me, you can."
What?
Kate Beckinsale looks at Gary Oldman, and she says, "Well, fucking... listen here, you little freak. Grab my wizard hat, because Harry's going to f*** Dobby." And then somewhere Pete Davidson saw that, and he was like, she'll have sex with anybody. I think I got a shot with this lady. The past was doing its best.
That's the theme song.
Leave him alone. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. They were doing their best.